And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I love seeing all the comments in YouTube already. Saying hi. Definitely let us know where you're calling in from. We're so excited to do State of the React Ecosystem today. My name is Tracy. You can follow me on Twitter at Lady Leet. I'm joined by my co-host, Adam Barrett. Hi, Adam.
Hi.
And I'm going to go ahead and share my slides really quickly. So this is the State of the React Ecosystem. And wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to my team. Without all their hard work, we would not be able to do as many events as we do. So shout out to them. And on the engineering side of things, we do get to work with a lot of really cool clients. So if you ever need help with React stuff, let us know. We've been doing a lot of really fun open source things. So if you're looking for more resources, for example, on React, or if you're doing a lot of stuff within any of these technologies and want to add your resources to this, check out framework.dev. Also, if you are excited about technology and need to bootstrap your projects, greenfield projects, there's also this thing called starter.dev, which is also fully open source. Just trying to make it really easy for you to bootstrap up a project. So we have a lot of really cool React starter kits, but we're always open to new ideas and new PR. So let us know. We are hiring always. So if you want to be friends, just find me on Twitter at Lady Leet, and I'm always happy to chat. We have a lot of upcoming events happening. If you are in Atlanta next week, there is going to be a Modern Web Atlanta. So if you want to just come and eat some tacos, come hang out with me. It's going to be in Alpharetta. There's also a Beer.js meetup in Raleigh. So go hang out. You can join the meetup groups there. Women in Tech Monthly Mentoring. It's a monthly Women in Tech event that we do. It's a private closed session and a great way women and people who identify as can come and join and just hang out and chat. So that's going to be happening February 15th. We have State of Web Perf, where all the hot takes will be had. So you can check that out February 21st. And then we have React Office Hours. That's happening February 22nd. Once again, I'm your host, and so is Adam. And we have some great panelists today. Mark is here. He is at Replay and is also a Redux maintainer and a prolific blog writer. Everyone should convince him to write a book soon. We have Tanner from TanStack. We have Dominic as well from TanStack. Kathleen, who is just always doing amazing things within the React ecosystem. Michael as well, Chantastic. Welcome, welcome. And then Ben MVP, one of my favorites. I can't say that. See, is Ben Lush my favorite or Ben Ilegbodu my favorite? I don't know.
It's one of the Bens.
You take one, I'll take the other.
So we are going to kick it off. And again, amazing conversations. Well, we see a lot of Hello Worlds. I want to know where y'all are from. So again, post it in there and feel free to post in comments everywhere about, these updates that we're about to get. And I'm going to let Mark go first with updates.
Okay. For once, I did not actually prepare any slides, somewhat intentionally. In November, we shipped Redux Toolkit 1.9. Primarily has some new options for RTK query, as well as some performance improvements. We optimized the internals. Deliberately did nothing Redux maintainer-ish for about a month and a half in November and December. But as of the last few weeks, we are actively working on Redux Toolkit 2.0, which is a intentionally major version that will have breaking changes. Couple of the big things, we're modernizing the build output. So we're no longer compiling the JavaScript backwards to be IE 11 compatible. So we're only going to be shipping modern JS syntax in the bundles. We are also updating the package to be fully, ES module format package defined. Still trying to ship common.js, so it's back, so it works with some earlier packages. I'll be honest, I have been scared to make this change for the last couple of years. But last week I shipped Redux Toolkit 2.0 Alpha 1, which has these changes. It seems to work in several major build tools. Please try it out and tell us what explodes. We've also removed some deprecated APIs like the options lookup table, object lookup table form for create reducer and the extra reducers field in create slice. Other things we're looking at doing, Michelle Westray is going to be working on Immer 10 and doing some similar modernization. So we're going to be including that in RTK 2.0. We may add some new features around like defining slices and defining selectors. We will hopefully ship Redux Core 5.0 in conjunction with RTK 2.0. That's mostly going to be shipping a TypeScript conversion that we did 3 years ago and never actually published. So those are the big things. And then other items on my wish list that who knows when I'll get around to them. I want to write a new documentation page for the essentials tutorial that says, okay, you built this whole example app in JavaScript. Here's how you would do it in TypeScript. I'd like to add a page on migrating from old style Redux to modern Redux Toolkit. And it'd be really nice if we could have a page that talks about setting up Redux with Nextjs, because there's some weird subtleties there. And then over the break, I did write a docs page that talks about different side effects approaches. So thunks, sagas, observables, RTK query, and the RTK listener middleware, and gives our specific recommendations on what to use. Spoiler, use RTK query for data fetching, listeners for reactive logic. That's all.
Yay, thank you so much. And for those of you who like have never met Mark before, who are listening, he is one of like the best people on the internet. I feel like if you need something to do or you're excited about open source, like Mark has a lot of tickets in all his repos. So you can just find him on Twitter and follow him around and ask him what to do.
Just bother him incessantly. Just make sure that he doesn't have any free time or any time to spend.
Well, he has it all listed out. He's very organized about like, oh, you want to contribute? Here you go. So no, very admirable. Thank you. And then
I'm disappointed that Mark isn't working on enough stuff. You know, that list was way too short, man.
Yeah, stop doing podcasts.
Oh, you don't even see the size of the to-do list that's in my head.
You're on here on the panel.
I've mostly come to peace with the fact that I will never manage to accomplish most of the things on that list.
Well, next up we have Kathleen to give updates.
And I had to unmute myself to make sure that I was unmuted. Hi, I am Kathleen McMahan. I am a senior design systems engineer at Northwestern Mutual. And as you can see behind me or here behind me, that is my cat Thor, who is deciding to join the conversation. The last time I was on the State of the React ecosystem, I was just announcing that I was joining Northwestern Mutual. So now I have been settled into the role for a bit, and I have been part of the team, which is an excellent team. And I've been working on standing up their design tokens system, as part of the Luna design system, package. As part of the team, blah, words are hard today. And so it's very exciting work, trying to get things into this very big enterprise level system, and oh God, I'm just trying to think of how to scale this right now. So I'm just going to put that aside, because I'm also thinking all the things that Mark is doing right now, and keep everything on track for us. So I am currently working on design systems. In the fall, I was doing a couple talks at React Brussels and at React Verona. So I've been talking about feature flagging and accessibility and how to make some widgets accessible. And I'm going to be doing that similar talk at React Miami, if anyone is coming to Miami. Oh, I know. I think a couple people in this in this call are going to be at React Miami, so I'm a little bit excited about that. I see you, Mark. I see you, Ben. At least there's a few here. Chantastic. So that is what I've been doing right now, and also on the side, I have been updating my Gatsby site from 2 to 5 because YOLO. And that's about it. I'm going to keep it short because we only have an hour.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Okay, next up, going to go ahead and invite Tanner for updates.
Hello. Good to be back. I don't have too much to say. Dom will probably talk a lot about React Query, which I'm most excited about, but I need to leave it for him. I have been working on type safe routing for a while now, coming up on a year of really diving into the intricacies of how all that works with type safe everything and, you know, all the other crazy patterns we have in the front end ecosystem with code splitting and server-side stuff. So really exploring that, and the router library is getting pretty good. There's still a few rough edges, and we're starting to split things out into a lot of different packages. So there's going to be a lot of new fun Tanstack packages to play around with. And then on kind of the general React front, something interesting that I've been working on as well. I've been talking a lot with Ryan Carniato about reactivity in general over the years. And recently I decided to try and rebuild all the reactivity engine for my agnostic libraries using Solid. And then we explored, you know, the utilities and the bridges that would need to bring fully reactive, fine-grained reactive state management and kind of bridge that back to the immutable model that React has and others as well. So that's probably one of the most interesting generic fronts that we're exploring right now. We almost got there. We saw some performance problems and we had to kind of regroup and redesign, but the future is bright. I see a future where I would be able to write the core logic for all of my libraries in a single fully reactive system, and then just kind of be able to bridge that out to different frameworks in the way that they understand reactivity, especially React. It's super simple to think about React in terms of immutability, but there are also performance ceilings and other considerations to take into account. So that's a really interesting front that I've been exploring. We're also working on just a couple of smaller libraries at Tanstack that are going to be headless. There's a Ranger one coming out. Virtual is probably going to 1.0 soon. And yeah, really exciting. But I'm mostly excited about Tanstack Query and the changes that are coming for that one. But I'll leave that one for Dom.
That all sounds really interesting. Any plans to rename it to Cringe Stack?
Yeah, actually.
For anyone
no.
who doesn't know, that's kind of a Twitter joke, but yeah.
Yeah, apparently you're not allowed to name a library after yourself. So I've officially been branded Cringe Stack by the community, which is totally fine. You know, it's just you know, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So
Yeah,
let it
bring
roll.
you down. It's awesome.
No.
Well, I feel like after that update, we should definitely be having Dominic give an update. Nice little segue there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, usually I'm only here when Tanner has no time, so thank you for having me today alongside him. I can say that I did see a bit of a sneak peek of what Tanner talked about, and he also showed me the new router and things like that yesterday, and it's really exciting things that are going on. So I'm also excited about all of the things that are going to come here. And at the same time, we're also working on Tanstack Query a lot. And I'm going to quickly share my screen for this let me find the right window. I realize this is the state of React ecosystem, but there are, since the Tanstack and Tanstack Query has an agnostic core, we've also been working on other adapters for Query. And one thing happened a couple of weeks ago, which is that the last, or not the last, but one additional adapter was shipped, and that is the Svelte Query adapter for Tanstack Query. And with that, we've pretty much completed the cycle of having one adapter for all major frameworks. And then a co-maintainer and maintainer of Solid Query, Arian, made this little video, which I hope this plays. I wanted to share this real quickly because it's really cool. It shows Astro with the same query client shared on 4 different components, each one in a different framework, showing what you can do with all sorts of different JavaScript frameworks when they're sharing queries together. Or just, I'm not saying they should share the queries, but it just shows what you can do when everything works together with the same query client, which I think is a pretty cool achievement and a pretty cool demo to show.
Are you sharing your screen, Dom?
I
We don't
am.
actually see it. No, we don't actually see it yet.
I would love to see it.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
There it is. Oh, you didn't. Oh, okay. Well, okay. So here it is. Sorry for that. I don't know if I did something wrong here. This is the demo where we have basically the same component rendered in 4 different frameworks. It's also on Twitter. I can share the link with you if you want.
Please do.
All right. Apart from that, last year we've kicked off the next major version of TanStack Query, which is version 5. I've made the roadmap in public, so you can also see this if you're interested about what is going to happen with version 5. We don't have a release date yet. There's also no alpha version out or anything, but it will be at some point later this year. All the things that we're working on are detailed out here, and we also have a milestone in our issue list that shows that there is some progress going on. Lots of people have volunteered to contribute, which is amazing. So lots of things are going on. We're also, similar to what Mark is doing, trying to ship modern JavaScript to the browsers, where with this and some other changes, we were able to reduce the bundle size by about 15%, which is always something that people appreciate, like smaller bundles and better performance because of this. And we're going to have also some breaking changes, but one of the things I'm always excited about is that we're working on code mods for version 5. So most of the breaking changes that we are going to have to introduce are going to be accompanied with a code mod to make the upgrade guide easier. Yeah, as far as new features are concerned, there isn't that much that I can tell you, apart from that there are going to be some. Some of them will probably involve optimistic updates and a new way to do them and to make them easier. Even though I'm known to not like optimistic updates that much, I see that there's value in them and that many people love that. So a new way to do this in an easier fashion might be something that will make it into version 5. That's something that I can share for now. And the last thing that we've been working on is the docs, which is also something that we've gotten some feedback that has room for improvement. And now that we have multiple different frameworks, one thing that we added was a framework switcher, because most of the docs started out as docs that are specific to React. But having multiple framework adapters, it means that we want to have the docs a little bit different and a little bit also shared if the concepts are the same. So now you can switch between all the available frameworks. And if you go to, for example, the Vue query adapter, you will see the same docs mostly, but some of the snippets and some of the sections are replaced with something that is specific to the other framework. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I have to share.
Thank you. Very exciting. All right. I think we'll have Ben go next.
Hello. Well, Tracy, I was hoping you would save the best for last, but I guess Michael gets
I've
to
already
be that
said
person.
you. I already said you're one of my 2 favorites.
But Tanner, I wanted you to feel better about yourself because, Walmart is named after Sam Walton. So he named it after himself.
Ooh.
And Sam's Club is named after him too. You just called it his name. So TanStack
What's Costco named after?
The
no clue.
Extreme cost savings
Yeah.
you get at Costco.
So don't feel bad.
I don't feel bad at all.
Yeah.
I honestly don't feel bad at all. I just think it's hilarious that somebody would have that opinion. I'm totally fine calling it whatever I want to call it. It has great SEO. No one else on the planet is trying to rank for TanStack. I actually think there's like maybe a tanning lotion, that's like, get your 6-pack tan or something like that. Stupid, right? But
Yeah.
they're not competing at all. So I stand by my decision. It was great.
There you go. Very nice. Yeah. So just to introduce myself, my name is Ben. If you haven't guessed, I live in Houston now. I moved from the Bay Area like a month ago or so.
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. So I'm actually temporarily, I will say, living in my mom's house until we move into the new house. So that's why I have this virtual background, because my son, he's 4, and just like cats, he likes to interrupt, me on the call. So hopefully you don't see like a head pop in right there, but if you do, you know what's going on. So I work at Stitch Fix. I'm a front-end architect there on our front-end platform team. So our team builds out all the platforms, design systems, and such for the website that other teams actually use to build the site. So if anything's broken on the site, I didn't do it, so it's fine. Or maybe since everything we build is all across the site, maybe I did do it, but it's one or the other. But we've been working on, the whole time I'm here, been building out our design system. It's in React. It's used across the site. And the documentation is in Storybook. So use Storybook all the time, basically. Interacts with our designers and such. And then lately, we've been working on a development platform for all the teams to build their apps. We used to use Rails, and now we're moving over to Nextjs, but it's a wrapper around it because there's some special things you have to do for Stitch Fix. And then lately, we've been working on a monorepo for all of our libraries. We've got, just my team manages like 15 different JS libraries. So we're putting it in one, using Turbo Repo, using change sets to publish the libraries and things like that. So between those 3, design system, Next.js wrapper, we call it Next UI, and our monorepo, that's what keeps me busy. And that's all I got. And now I guess we're saving the best for last.
Who is it then?
With the pro setup.
Hey, what's up? I'm Chan, or Chantastic, most places. And I've been trying to do a little bit more YouTube this year, which is kind of fun. And so if you want to see what a midlife crisis in tech looks like, you can see that on my YouTube channel at Chantastic, or the Storybook YouTube channel at Storybook.js. And I'd say like the biggest thing that's happening in, so I work at Chromatic, which is the company that maintains Storybook. And I think the biggest thing that's happening in our world right now is just Storybook Day. I think it's like March 14th. I forgot the exact date, but if you go to storybook.js.org/day, you can go the dates on there. So you can go sign up and hang out with us. It's gonna be a super fun event. We're going to talk about Storybook 7 and all the slick stuff that's coming down the pipe for everyone doing component libraries, design systems, and even some really cool testing stuff that's in the pipeline. So yeah, that's a short one for me.
Nice. So exciting. Well, yeah, definitely check out Storybook Day, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of really amazing content that comes out of that. So pretty great.
Using your stuff all the time, Michael. So
I wish I could take credit for it. I just make the dorky thumbnails. So
well, I for one find myself saying Chantastic instead of fantastic all the time. So thank you for that. that just infected my lexical mind, I guess.
This should be the personal branding, the state of personal branding.
State of personal branding. I love it. That'll be the next meetup.
Chanstack. You got it. Yeah. Okay. So
sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, moving on to kind of like the panel questions.
Yeah, we have obviously a wonderful panel of experts here, and We just have like some questions, and if anybody else has questions, you can throw them in the chat and stuff. But I wanted to start off with something that's kind of maybe a bit tongue in cheek, but maybe I just want to get your guys' feeling on this. So there's been talk about the community on the Twitters and the Fediverse and stuff that have sort of implied that React is dying, that this is the beginning of the slow march to the end because these other frameworks have come out and they're so much, better or so much whatever. And there's just different ways of doing things. I just want to get your folks' feelings on the idea of that. And there's been a few blog posts, a few, things about this, but anybody have any feelings on this idea that React is dying?
Mark has some very strong feelings.
Let's hear
Go ahead, Mark.
So my first thought is that I find it very frustrating that maybe it's just the JS community that has, or the React community that has this problem, but there's a recurring theme that as soon as someone does not like a tool, or as soon as another tool in the same space launches, everybody rushes to declare that all these previous existing tools are dead. And I'm not sure if the implication is necessarily that, if I don't like this tool, clearly nobody else likes this tool, or everybody must stop using this tool immediately. But I find this very frustrating. I mean, we went through it with Redux, we're going through it with React App, we're going through it with React, etc. And obviously none of these things are true. These are all still very widely used tools. And like in the case of React, especially, like the growth of React, if you look at the the download charts in comparison with other tools, continues to go through the roof. React is growing, not going away. I think it's very fair to say that there are pain points and annoyances with using React, with using React App, etc. There's no question about that, but that's a far cry from saying this thing is dead. So that'd be my first observation.
But you got to get them clicks, right? You got to get them that engagement. I do think a lot of it comes down to like, people trying to start fires for their own attention's sake. But it is interesting. What do you guys feel about the new frameworks that are coming out, the new technologies and techniques? Oh, go ahead, Kathleen. And feel free to just talk. We don't have to raise hands to talk on all this.
Raising. I've grown up being polite. So I agree with Mark on that, because you've heard like for years, like even like in this SEO days, the new thing is SEO is dead, long live SEO. Everyone's cranky about something. As is Thor. Thanks, Ben. As you can see, my cat's interrupting again. Tools mature. Whenever a new tool comes out, it pushes the bar higher for tools to evolve and make themselves better, which I think is great for all the users to make, improve the tools, to make code better for the users, for us to be able to do our jobs better. When I was looking at two new tools, Quick and Solid.js, for me personally, I find them exciting for two reasons. It wouldn't make me turn away from React. I just find them exciting for two reasons in particular, because especially Solid.js, they are closer to the DOM for me, and I like that because I work in design systems, and I like something that is like in terms of like for me, the mental model of a virtual DOM, the mental model of refs, the mental model of, like for me, thinking about accessibility, thinking about like trying to manage focus and do all these things to create an accessible experience. And I'm working a lot with presentational components, and I'm not thinking about that layer of abstraction above where you're doing a lot of business logic. And when you're thinking about a certain level of complexity, sometimes React to me can feel a little tangled. And in programming, naming can get hard. And when I looked in particular at Solid.js, and visually, the syntax looks very similar to React. Can you not? What I liked about it, rather than use state, it was, I forget the term right now, but it was very, the words were more, I could understand them more easily for me. They made more sense. Like the hooks, like the names of the hooks made more sense to me. It made, it made sense in my brain for, like, instead of use effect, it was create effect, or, it just, instead of use state, it was something different. And it allowed me to understand the mental model of even React better and more quickly. So for someone that's learning React, I think it takes React to a different level, and to a level that allows you to adjust something a little more quickly. And it's, in my opinion, it takes React and allows you to, it's almost like looking at React 9 years later and goes, if I was going to start again, I may have named this a little bit differently if I was starting again, starting fresh and going from there as a starting point. That's
and maybe even the complexity has grown as React has become more now, you never used to worry about transitions, I got to start transition, even the keeping track of all your references so that your things your effects and stuff. And even now the change of hey, we kind of promoted doing everything in effects before, but now we're saying no, do most of it in actions. Let's use effect as little as possible. There's, as it evolved, it seems to have gotten more complex, and the rules can sometimes be confusing, and yet the documentation hasn't changed yet, but hopefully that's coming soon.
Well, the beta docs are better, but Mark, thank you for telling me, create signal. For me, in my brain, create signal, for me, as a mental model, is more, I can understand that better than use state. I'm like, create signal, send a signal that we're doing something, versus creating state. I'm like, I'm sending a signal to someone to do something, versus creating state. I'm like, what does state mean? Is it a state of something? Or, I'm sending a signal. Oh, okay. And it's just a different mental model. So that's what excites me about these newer things, but also understanding that tools evolve. It doesn't mean I'm going to throw something away. It's just understanding that it's a new thing to try.
Yeah. Sorry, Kathleen, I didn't mean to interrupt there.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Tanner, you had your hand up there. Anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I'll just give my 2 cents on this. You hear a lot of is the thing dying, right? And like Mark said, that's just kind of, I like to think of it as kind of thought leader churn, right? Thought leaders, and most of the things you hear online, and statements like something is dying, they're coming from thought leaders or people who are living on the bleeding edge of tech, right? And the bleeding edge, by its very nature, is something that's always changing. They're going to be changing their opinions again in 6 months, and that's totally fine. But what I do think is valuable to listen to some of these opinions is to kind of get a glimpse into a potential future, right? A potential future that could be avoided or may not be able to be avoided. It depends on how we act now, right? So, with a good example I have is with Mark. Mark is one of the most fantastic people I know, and in the early days of React Query, kind of just by accident almost, there just became a lot of this. Well, React Query is gaining popularity. Does that mean Redux is dead? And the answer is no, because do you know how much of the React ecosystem is running on Redux? It's people failing to recognize that the bigger a ship grows, the harder it is to turn that ship quickly. But it doesn't mean that it's still not a big ship carrying a lot of people. And it may not be very popular to talk about the ship that's getting old or carrying a lot of the load and the weight into the future. So you get a lot of this kind of thought leadership happening. And Mark, in his infinite wisdom, saw that, hey, you know what? There are some good things about React Query that maybe Redux could consider. Boom, we got Redux Toolkit and RTK Query that are just smashing good, awesome. You know what I mean? It's taking that ability to just look at the ecosystem and say, you know what? Here's some good things that are happening on the edge that we should consider and that we might need to take seriously. And here's some bad takes that we're just going to ignore, right? And we do the same thing, with all the software that we build as well. That's how the competitive landscape works. And it's no different for React. So when we talk about frameworks like Solid and Quick, I'm equally as excited about them. And what I see is, the edge of frameworks and state management right now tends to be touching on a few different things. We've got resumability, we have fine-grained reactivity, right? And then we have, kind of the base camp in React with Next that's pushing the limits of like, well, what can we do with a framework that's server components and SSR and everybody's kind of pushing on the bubble in little different places. I don't think React is dying, but I do believe that the reasons that people are saying that it's dying are reasons that the React team and React ecosystem should probably take seriously. Reactivity is one of them that I believe should be taken more seriously, mostly because how much use memo and use callback do we have in all of our applications? It's absurd, right? So we're talking about a fundamental, we're talking about a fundamental primitive of React that is, the reactivity engine of React that's just not aging super well into maturity. It doesn't mean that it's bad or busted or broken. It just means that there could be a better way. And I think that's one that we need to explore that Preact has kind of already done as well with Preact signals. And then things like Quick with resumability. I don't know how React is going to, even consider venturing into that territory, but that's the thing is resumability is amazing and it's cool and it's really difficult to achieve without building from the ground up for it, So I think it's good that we all be careful throwing around the term is something dying. But we definitely should not be dismissing the underlying reasons for why do these opinions crop up, right? We as an ecosystem, I still care deeply about React, even though I'm almost equally as excited about Solid, as you could probably tell. But I don't think that we don't need to act so binary in our opinions. We just kind of need to seek out the right solutions and the right technologies for everybody. If you look back on the last 10 years, in reality, most frameworks have converged on very good models around component design and server streaming, and module isolation. So there are good patterns that we all share. And we need to be self-aware enough to consider, the great things about the other frameworks and even self-aware enough to consider a very bold and maybe misguided statement that React is dying.
Yeah, and also, the ecosystem, right? Like nothing can compare to the ecosystem that React has built around it. It's amazing, and I feel like that's why React has really won in many different ways, right? Like, you look at a few years ago, and it was like, okay, is it going to be Angular or Vue or React? But truly React, and it really is thanks to the people on this call and the people listening. It's just the builders building on top of it, creating something that they want, creating tools around it. I do not think React is going anywhere ever anytime soon.
I actually have one more thought on that as well.
Yeah.
You need to think about this from a personal level and where your personal stakes are. Really, most of our personal stakes probably lie with the companies we work at or the projects that we build and work on ourselves. And we need to realize that the fate of React is, in fact, out of our control for the most part. And that's fine. We can influence it as much as we can. I realized that fragility at least a year or two ago and started preparation for an agnostic system, which is why Tanstack exists. That doesn't mean that we are focusing our efforts in other places, but it is preparing for a potential future where, React isn't the most dominant tool, or it maybe isn't the first choice for new projects, right? Something that I think is along those same veins is there's been a lot of chatter from the React core team recently, I think from Andrew, about you know, how if you're using React, you should be using Next essentially, or Remix. I think that's a great recommendation for anybody who's new coming into React. That is a solid recommendation. And even people who aren't new to React but starting new projects, that's probably still a very solid recommendation to just start with something like Next or Remix. But I think we need to be careful as an ecosystem of going down the path where a framework is the only way that the greatness of React can be consumed, right? I think it's fine that we push frameworks and push productivity, but we cannot abandon our primitives and the ability to compose and consume those in the way that we want. I think that's something that led Angular down a bad path, and ultimately, you know, they kind of fell off the edge. But I think that's also something to consider, right? Is that we need to.
So you're saying that Angular
is our roots.
Oh God,
that's funny too, because
I
didn't say dead, right? That's the trick. Is that I still have a couple of apps that are built in Angular and 1X, and they run fine. I think it's more about just, you know, what's your first pick? What are your greenfield options? Where are the recommendations headed? You know, where is most of the support and the new technology and the new efforts being placed? I don't see a whole lot of that happening around, you know, these older frameworks. So,
Michael, did you want to respond to that? You had your little hand raised.
I want to hear Michael.
So what I'm thinking about is in response to that, but then mostly in response to something that Kathleen said that just kind of like triggered something in my brain. Like, I think something we have to really consider about React is the length of time that it's been around and the problems that it was attempting to solve, you know, 10 years ago when it started, right? So this is a big, like, and I think that we kind of forget that when we're like evaluating, like, is, you know, React dead or whatever. And it really is kind of like, you know, what Tanner's saying is that, like, how have the architectural decisions that were made at that time, like, lasted over this last decade? And now that that's kind of like well-worn, like, territory, now that we know what that looks like and things and the landscape has changed, are those same trade-offs still like valuable, right? Or would we make different trade-offs now? And I think that one of the things that's maybe most challenging about React is that at 10 years ago, it was extremely progressive, right? Extremely progressive. And over the last 10 years, it has not been as progressive as it was at that time, right? Like those ideas have just kind of played out. They haven't continued to really like adapt, I guess. Now, people would disagree with me, and I think that there's a lot of things that like we haven't seen play out yet, right? Like, so Next 13 is really interesting because it actually is that extension to like show like, well, how do all of the like kind of concurrent ideas play out in a real application, right? And so we'll see that pretty soon, like how far we can take this. But, you know, you know, back to kind of Kathleen's point is that a thing that we're finding is that React actually makes certain things a little bit more difficult, right? So it made application building a lot easier with this component model. But then like when you start to move into a time where people are thinking more and more about accessibility and we're trying to, you know, leverage more the primitives of the DOM that live there, and like use information from the DOM, right? Like honestly, control would probably be a better name for React than React. Because like what we were trying to solve 10 years ago was this idea of like, how do we make sure 100% that everything is exactly like we want it to be every time, right? And the answer to that was, well, we control absolutely everything. We leave no control to the DOM whatsoever. And it's an interesting concept. And I think that it has brought us to where we're at today. But now that we've had kind of this landscape, a browser landscape that's changed, and some of those legacy browsers have like dropped off, and we can rely more on DOM primitives, and we want to build UIs that actually leverage those. particularly in the accessibility space, well, like now you have to like rebuild all of that inside of React, and it's really hard to do. So like React is no longer helping us on the problems that we're trying to change now. And like I think that when at least a contingent of people, like when there's this feeling of like, is React dying? It's really more this question of like, is React progressive enough today to capture the energy in the community around actually like collaborating with the DOM instead of just like exercising it? Anyway, I don't know. There's a lot in there or whatever, but I think that's something that I worry about. And it's less about like, you know, is it still good for building applications? No, it's still great for building applications. But the question is like over the next 10 years, I think that we are seeing this shift toward a collaboration with the browser. And I think that while React is driving a lot of those low-level APIs, right? Like the scheduler, you know, that's actually changed the way that people are thinking about coordination around events in the browser. Like the actual like coordination of like or cooperation of React with the browser is not there. And I think that's something that a lot of people are worried about, whether that's what they see as like the main thing they're worried about or not. And I think that's what we're seeing in the innovation in a lot of other frameworks is that piece of like an actual collaboration with the browser itself. Sorry, that was a long tangent.
No, that was great. And I do want to encourage all the panelists. I know you're all very polite, but just talk. Just, you know, if you have a point, feel free to interrupt. I know that may feel rude, especially when somebody's talking, but I think having a more conversational tone to this will make it really exciting. Dom,
I want to hear from Ben.
Ben, yeah, do you guys have
and then Dom.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, if I had joined in earlier, you all, you know, kind of described it beautifully. I mean, React has just been around for a long time, so it's no longer exciting, like Kathleen said about solid.js, right?
Whoops, I think Ben froze.
Uh-oh.
I think you're...
Oh, I see him. I hear him.
I hear me.
Okay.
I hear him too.
Yeah.
It's me. It's me.
Yes,
Sorry.
it's all you. Yeah, Tanner was talking about how, yeah, it's just not the cool thing on the block, right? So, I mean, take PHP, right? It's like whatever the exact opposite of exciting is, but like so many people use it, right? And so many people use React, even though you know, the thought leaders are now no longer excited about it. So
take PHP, please.
And the Lambo on top.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But there's still PHP conferences and everything like that. So it's not like it's dead. It's just not cool. So your average developer who's not listening to Twitter is still working in React and, you know, making things happen. So it's impossible for it to be dead if lots of people are using it, is the nutshell.
This is just like the craziest conversation I've ever had. Because I think like the points are, you know, it's funny because like there's been a lot of great conversation around, you know, this idea of is React dead, and it's not so much around is React dead. It's more like, okay, well, you know, how are things evolving with technology, right? But it's just wild to me that would even be a conversation, you know, that
it's not cool
that we're having. Yeah.
But don't you kind of find, not to stir up this nest, but don't you kind of find that these are the same things that the Angular people are saying right now as well, though? They're
absolutely.
Saying, like,
Everyone's
why
using
we're growing
it
every year. Why would anybody consider this dead? And yet there is definitely a decline in growth, at least.
Or like,
and
is
Tanner believes
GraphQL
they're
dead?
And Tanner said they were dead. Totally.
Yeah.
They're dead to me. If you're talking about it from a relative perspective, you can say anything you want, and they're dead to me. So.
Dom, did you want to throw out anything before we switch?
Yes. Well, if anything of the size of React is dying, then it will take a long time, I think, until it gets there. But I don't. Maybe I'm the most optimistic here about React still in the group, because I don't quite see see it so pessimistic. Maybe I know there's lots of like situations going on Twitter or discussions going on, and as Tanner said, this has to be on the edge. Every bubble that we are seeing operates on the very edge. But then we have a big, very large group of developers or people that are just starting out, And when you look at what the job market is looking for, everybody is hiring for React developers. Why? Because there is so much React out there. They have React applications, and they also find the best developers in the React sphere. So people want to learn React, and that's also why people want to still hire for React, because you don't get fired for choosing React if you're building a new application. So this is kind of like this growth loop that we are in. It's kind of like self-containing, always getting bigger. And the second thing why I still think that React is a very good choice is the ecosystem. So you do have 10 years of innovation in there. It has also pioneered lots of things like the component-driven development and JSX that everyone is using now, and other frameworks obviously want to like take the good parts and make it better. And that's very good because we need the innovation, right? But it will still take something that's a lot better than React in order to say, okay, now comes the shift towards it. Like we had when we started out with React, it was just so much better than everything that there was before that we immediately threw away our Angular apps and rewrote them. And lots of people did, and lots of innovation came in there. But if you don't have the ecosystem and you are starting out right now, then you are going to have a hard time to beat React, because you must be a lot better. And for this, React is not bad enough, right? It's just, it's good enough for most of the things that most people do. And there are lots of developers in there. And one of the things why I'm still excited about this, and about the move that the TanStack specifically is going with the agnostic core and with all the adapters on top of that, is that we are actually hopefully helping the other frameworks with popularity, because you will all of a sudden have an ecosystem of things that you are used to working with React. So when you're saying, okay, I want to build a page, I want to query some data, I want to render a table, and I want to virtualize it, and you know how to do this in React with the TanStack and the principles behind it, you can now just take this and basically do the same thing in Solid, just maybe more performant and a bit more on the edge and a bit better. And maybe this will help drive the
And we're back after some technical difficulties. Apologize to watchers on YouTube and everyone who can hear me now, which maybe you still can.
I don't know what that was, but I don't think it was me, because usually if something goes out, that must have been a StreamYard.
I thought it was my connection, but sorry.
That was crazy. That was crazy. But we're still alive. Hi. So, there we go. Yeah.
So I kind of lost my train of thought there, I guess. But I think I was done.
Yeah.
I hope it came across kind of what I wanted to say.
Yeah. I think all of this conversation has been amazing. There's two Adams. No, there's not two Adams. I think no, React is not dead. I feel like we should have started on that. That should have been like the last question, because of all the panel questions we had, like we've stuck on this one. There were so many, again, amazing things to like be had and said about this topic. And, the insight has just been, truly amazing too.
Can you let Ben in?
Yes. There we go.
There we go.
I'm back.
We're all out of order now.
Oh my goodness. But we are.
Build it.
StreamYard was just watching, and they're like, "This thing is built on React." Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
It is good.
No, it is great to see, the maturing. It's like everything's growing up, right? I mean, you hear this conversation everywhere, and I don't think anybody should ever take it seriously. Like, the other day, it's like, oh, GraphQL is dead. Well, why is GraphQL dead? Because everybody's already implementing it, and nobody needs to learn how to anymore. It's just what it is. and it's doing its job, you know? But again, like I love to see the constant innovation still that's happening within the React ecosystem. And it is so cool to see all these new technologies come out and us being able to learn from it and grow from it and this and that. And yeah, I mean, WordPress is dead. jQuery is dead.
Right.
PHP is dead.
All
What
the things
else
that
is
just
dead?
print money. Just print money. As soon as it starts printing money, it's dead. It's dead.
What is
Hey,
that
we
called?
just moved
COBOL.
our
COBOL is
marketing
dead.
site back to
Well,
Blog,
COBOL
back to
is dead.
WordPress. So,
Come on now.
Did you really, Dana?
oh yeah, it's
You moved your
fantastic.
marketing. Really?
Yeah,
Amazing.
30-second story. I wrote React Static a long time ago because I was the one who wrote the marketing website. And then I didn't want to compete with Next and Gatsby, so I just sold it and let it go. And then all this stuff starts happening, right? And at the end of the day, guess who's managing your marketing website? Content writers and SEO people and designers and marketers. And they don't want to use the stuff that's written for us, you know? So we are changing over to WordPress, and our content team and designers and everything, they've never been happier. So
That's true.
Yeah.
First thing I did when I learned development, screw
Right.
WordPress.
Right
I'm
tool for the
building
right job.
everything in, well, at the time it was Ember and then Angular and then React. And, you know, then it was like, oh God, what am I doing? I'm killing myself. Okay.
So is it kind of
Yeah.
headless WordPress, or are you like
No,
all in
we,
on the PHP?
we just went all in on PHP, and plugins are great.
I bet your SEO is awesome too.
Oh yeah, I mean Nozzle is a company. We have an SEO analytics platform, so we have great SEO people in house. But yeah, it's awesome. And anywhere that it doesn't, you know, just old school module federation, iframe.
Well, State of WordPress up next, coming up in the next 30 days. Look out for it, featuring Tanner. Okay. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We will see you next time. And make sure to follow all these amazing people on Twitter or on the Fediverse, wherever they are. We really appreciate you joining, and keep the conversation going. Join our Discord if you have interesting things to talk about. And, you know, we do have React office hours. You can look at it on reactjsmeetup.com if you want to just kind of come and, you know, talk about why React is not dead. It's the worst thing I've heard today, y'all. Like, it makes me sad, but it makes me happy that innovation is happening. And React is not dead. Oh my God. I'm not going to be able to sleep at night tonight. All right. Thanks all. Have a great day.
Right. Bye, y'all. Thank you.